go there and to make sure I can make the best decisions for every single Mississippian that calls this great state home.
Hyde-Smith's campaign was dogged by charges she'd made racially insensitive remarks, but Democrat Mike Espy telling supporters,
"She has my prayers as she goes to Washington to unite a very divided Mississippi. And she has my prayers and my willingness to help her to do that."
President Trump, who'd campaigned for her, tweeting congratulations to Senator Hyde-Smith on the win and celebrating the GOP majority in the next Congress, which will be 53-47. Conservative author Jerome Corsi says he'll reject a plea bargain deal with the special counsel's office that called for him to plead guilty to perjury, telling Fox's Tucker Carlson the Mueller investigation is tainted.
It's completely rigged and it's politically driven by Clinton operatives who have an agenda, and if you can't give them, Roger's right, if you can't give them what they're looking for to fill their narrative, they blow you up and charge you with a crime.
Special counsel charges that Corsi knew in advance of their release that WikiLeaks had information stolen from Clinton advisor John Podesta's emails. Corsi denies that. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange denying a report in London's Guardian newspaper that he met 3 times with Paul Manafort. Meetings the former Trump campaign chair denies as well. Assange is threatening a lawsuit against the paper. Progress reported locating the missing in the wake of the California wildfire, the number of people unaccounted for dropping to 158. Singer Stevie Wonder announcing a benefit to raise money for those affected by the fire. This is Fox News.
Enjoy a world-class breakfast in historic Talafofo at Jeff's Pirates Cove. Serving as both a military dispensary, recreation, and rehab center for pilots after the war, Jeff's Pirates Cove offers a taste of local history while you start your day with a delicious omelet or steak and eggs. If you're on a budget, pick up one of Jeff's $8 breakfasts, all served up with endless coffee. For reservations and information, call 789-COVE. That's 789-2683. Start your day at Jeff's Pirates Cove. Open daily at 8 a.m. in historic Ipan, Talafofo.
Be merry, be bright, and make shopping all right with holiday gift cards from Ruby Tuesday. Buy a $25 or $50 gift card for those on your shopping list. Get a $15 bonus coupon with every $50 card purchase. Some extra holiday happiness from Ruby Tuesday. Be merry, be bright, and make shopping all right with holiday gift cards from Chuck E. Cheese's Guam. Get a free medium pizza with every $25 gift card purchase and a free extra large pizza with every $50 gift card purchase. Some extra holiday happiness from Chuck E. Cheese's Guam.
President Trump very upset with General Motors and its plans to shutter several assembly plants and lay off thousands of workers.
The president said the U.S. saved General Motors, and this is the thanks we get? Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called the news a gut punch to American workers in politically critical states like Ohio and Michigan.
Guess where President Trump promised the people we won't lose one auto plant? Warren, Michigan. And that is where one of the plants is now slated to close.
GM explains the move is necessary to position the company for long-term success and maintain and grow American jobs, adding that many of the U.S. workers impacted by these actions will have the opportunity to shift to other GM plants.
Fox's Kristen Fisher. But for the sheriff's office, it could have been a lot worse. The shooting earlier this month at a country bar in Thousand Oaks, California. Investigators revealing Tuesday that Ian David Long had more than 150 bullets left after fatally shooting a dozen people, but he stopped the assault to ambush responding police officers, killing one of them. Long used his last shot to take his own life. Investigators say they still aren't sure why he attacked the bar. Legal marijuana, a big hit in Massachusetts.
The first commercial marijuana shops in Massachusetts sold more than $2.2 million worth of pot in the first 5 days they were open for business. That's according to figures released by the Cannabis Control Commission. The stores in Northampton and Leicester began selling pot November 20th and sold $440,000 worth of cannabis that day. The busiest day was the Friday after Thanksgiving, when the stores reported nearly $480,000 in gross sales. But the store opening's not without a hitch, as some Leicester residents complained about traffic jams and other problems during a town hall meeting Monday. Additional stores in the state expected to open in the next few months. Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Welcome to the annual holiday swap. Harold, you first.
Oh, it's a Subway card.
Wow.
Nice. Sharon?
I'm going to take the Subway card.
Oh, Harold, now you can choose a new gift.
I think I'll just take that Subway card right back.
Okay.
I don't think you can do that, Harold.
Stuff it, Glenn. This is between me and Sharon.
A Subway card is the gotta-have-it gift. With cards from $5 up to any amount, you'll give a gift and get a gift, too. Get a free 40-ounce fountain drink with a $20 load, or get a free regular 6-inch sub with a $30 load on any Subway card. Subway, make it what you want. At participating restaurants.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Sanford Technology Group, STG, delivering service that can't be beat.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's according to the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution. And as you habitual listeners to the Tall Tales out there in our international radio listening audience know, we start the program every day with a reading, a reverential reading of Tall Tales. Yeah, every day, just to make sure that we remind ourselves that we are constitutionalists here in Tall Tales Nation. We value the United States Constitution kind of like the way the framers wrote it. We're not living constitutional boys here on Tall Tales. So that's just a good reminder. Sometimes I take the opportunity after I read Tall Tales to heap criticism on Mr. Justice Antonin Scalia and his inability to read the word militia as he wrote the two seminal decisions on the Second Amendment, each of which holds that a person has a constitutional right to keep a firearm in his home. And oftentimes, if I spot something as I'm combing through the multitudinous conservative emails that I use every day as show prep, and occasional liberal emails, leftist emails like Salon and the HuffPo and the New York Times and Counterpunch and things like that, the Washington Post, these other ultra-left email publications. And I found one today in the strangest, a tidbit, a Second Amendment tidbit in the strangest place on KUAM last night. And here's how it goes, and then I will make some predictions after having read this very short story that appeared on KUAM last night. It goes like this. A teen suspect is facing charges for allegedly using a BB gun to shoot at a school bus in Malolo early Monday. As reported, Southern High students heard a popping noise on their way to school. When the bus driver noticed a shattered window, the incident caused quite the scare for Southern residents. According to GPD, the 16-year-old male minor shot the window with a BB gun that law enforcement later confiscated. The teen is currently being held at DYA. He is charged with criminal mischief to government property, terrorizing, crimes against the community, and reckless conduct. So that's the story. Now, for my predictions, if we do the same thing here that the left wants us to do everywhere, we've got to have a campaign to go out and confiscate every single BB gun here on the island. Because it's very obvious to anyone who reads this story that the problem here is the BB gun. It's not the 16-year-old who, among other things, had only been on Earth for 16 years and may have very well been engaging in nothing more than a childhood prank. I hope so. And perhaps if that's correct, that his life not be sidetracked down the criminal justice path for a youthful indiscretion of shooting at a school bus with a BB gun. But, of course, if we're looking at it from the left, we've got to go out and confiscate every single BB gun here on the island. We've got to make it illegal to sell BB guns. And somehow we got to work the National Rifle Association in here. And perhaps accuse the NRA of being deceptive and suggest that Congress pass a law requiring the NRA to change its name from the NRA to the NRA BBG Association, because it's quite obvious here that BB guns are a really serious public safety problem. That's the way the... And what is it that Rush Limbaugh always says about the left, Real Joe Cruz? You remember?
No.
The left screws up everything they touch.
They do.
Yeah.
But this story kind of reminds me of that old Christmas story where they told the kid, "You'll shoot your eye out, kid."
Yeah, you know, like every other kid, I had a BB gun when I was a kid, right? And we used to do really bad things. We'd try to shoot sparrows with our BB guns, right?
I had one too.
Yeah, and back in those days, you know, we didn't think sparrows were worth much, so no one would get on your case for shooting a BB gun at a sparrow. I suppose they'd have the SPG and the FBI and everybody else on you now for cruelty to sparrows. And, you know, full disclosure, we shot at things we really shouldn't be shooting at. And there probably wasn't a kid who ever owned a BB gun that didn't shoot somebody's window by accident. That's kind of the way it was. But that was then, and this is now. We weren't anywhere near as politically correct back in the days when I was a kid as we are now. So now we've had an incident here, so we've got to take action. I'm just waiting for one of our new senators. By the way, did you know, Real Joe Cruz, that 10 of our new senators are of the female gender?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I don't know if any of those 10 are going to be skillful public thinking senators, but I know that 10 of them are females.
That's true, and I know you'll be watching.
I will be watching. I'll be watching them like a hawk, and of course I'll also be watching the 5 male senators, because I'm going to hold them. I suppose this is really politically incorrect, but I'm going to hold them, all 15 of them, to the same standard. No different standard for males or females. I have extremely high expectations for all of them, and I'm, as well as I can from this microphone, I'm going to hold them all to very high standards. So, let's see. Chris Abelenza is talking in terms of not only sparrows, but the neighbor's chickens. Ted Lewis is up in Montana, so I got a feeling in Montana they're a little more tolerant than we are down here. And Jose Martinez tells us about the Daisy Red Ryder. I don't know if that's a commercial for the Daisy Red Ryder or what, but that I still have a Daisy Red Ryder at my house.
Me too, sir.
Yeah. I'm not going to shoot at any of the stray cats that run around in our neighborhood, because if anyone ever saw me, it would ruin my reputation forever. So let's see. I got a phone call here already from Joe. It's not you.
No, sir.
It's just a Joe.
Yes, sir.
Not the Real Joe Cruz. Okay, Joe. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. And actually, my middle name is Joseph, so.
Joseph.
I really am a Joe.
You really are a Joe. You're Joseph Joe Joseph?
My middle name's Joseph.
Okay.
Well, you know, the whole point here regarding the new legislature, I just hope they're not naive.
One of them is your niece?
No, I hope they're not naive.
Oh, you hope they're not naive. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I certainly do too, and I suspect that a certain amount of naivete and the dealing with that is the part of being a new senator. It seems to happen every time, Joe.
Yeah, it does, especially the gun-free school zone.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't understand that concept.
Of gun-free school zones?
I really don't.
Well, I know what the law says. The law says that if you get caught with a gun in a gun-free school zone, the penalty is higher.
Yeah.
But I think that when you say that you don't understand, you don't understand the object of a gun-free school zone, correct?
Exactly. I don't understand that.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and explain, Joe.
Well, you've got the person who's going nuts and who wants to shoot up a school. There won't be anybody there to defend themselves against the assailant.
Well, let me put it to you like this then, Joe. If a person had a gun and wanted to shoot up a school, but he knew that the school was in a gun-free school zone, wouldn't that stop him from doing it?
No. In fact, because there's no one that's going to stop him, he's going to go ahead and do it.
So perhaps rather than stopping the gunman, it only tends to encourage him because he'll think he's safer, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I see. I can see the depth of your misunderstanding there, Joe. I kind of share it myself.
I will research it and I will show you exactly what these crazy people are thinking. And most of the time, they're not as crazy as you think, because some of them actually pass by an area where there are such armed ASOs.
Uh-huh.
You know, and to tell you the truth, and you know, another thing too, if we remain ignorant about weapons, weapons aren't dangerous. It's the person behind them. And I tell you what, I'm all for the Second Amendment.
I agree, Joe, and that's kind of my point here. When I read this story from KOAM last night, I suppose rather than ban BB guns, maybe what we should do is ban 16-year-olds, because they're immature, and they might pick up a BB gun or something else and do some damage. Correct?
Correct.
But it's actually a real world that we live in, not a make-believe or not an ideal or a utopian world. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I agree with everything you say, Joe. It's a great way to start out another day here on Tall Tales, to have an intelligent caller that calls in and expresses viewpoints that I agree with 100%. So thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you. And I can thank Brian McCready for that idiotic law.
Which one is that, the gun-free school of zones?
Yes.
Yeah, well, Brandt kind of distinguished himself as a senator. He ran for re-election. When he came on for re-election, he finished dead last in the primary. Yeah. And that just goes to show that Abraham Lincoln had a point. You can fool some of the people all of the time and all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time, right, Joe?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Okay, I got another call here, and I'm going to see if he's cottoning to the rap that I'm laying out here about guns. Hello, Mo.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, here's my situation. I grew up shooting fake pistols for everything, because I went to see every Roy Rogers and Hopalong Cassidy movie that ever came out.
I got to interrupt you for a second, Mo. Are you doing your laundry now?
No. Why?
Well, it sounds like you're calling from the inside of a dryer.
Okay, I am inside my car.
Uh-huh.
Turned off the air conditioner.
That's better, yeah.
That's better, okay.
Yeah, well, you'll be okay, because, you know, Tall Tales is the coolest afternoon talk show on Guam.
Well, of course. I agree with that.
All right, so go ahead and tell me the rest of your story.
All right, well, of course, I grew up. We didn't have pistols that were BB guns, so I never had a BB gun growing up, but I now have a pistol that's a BB gun. I use it because I feed my dogs outside every day, and the pigeons just love to come down and eat out of the bowl. And while I'm sitting outdoors listening to Ray Gibson in the morning, I like to take my pistol BB gun, and I don't shoot the pigeons really. I'm a animal lover, so I just scare them. And well, I wasn't doing so good, so I went to Kmart and bought a rifle, BB gun rifle, which I haven't used yet. But I'm now concerned because maybe I better turn them into the armory. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I suspect that you're older than 16, though, aren't you, Mo? I'm
now 82. Will be 83 next month. I think you know that.
Yeah. Well, if legislation comes along to confiscate all BB guns, I'm going to see if I could lobby for a Manamco exception. Anybody over 80 years old gets to keep his BB gun.
What? Well, yeah. I mean,
and I got a compliment. I got to compliment you, Mo. I guess after over 80 years, you really know how to live. But just the mental image of a guy sitting out in his front porch in the morning, listening to the Ray Gibson show, shooting at pigeons with his BB gun. It doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, I know. I live good. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment.
You're welcome, Mo. Thanks a lot for calling in and sharing with us that constructive use for a BB gun. So I'm sure our international radio listening audience will really appreciate that. So yeah, so there's a whole bale of cotton there in that call. So let me see what my Facebook audience is saying here. I got Ishmael Velez. You have that clever, yeah, that's the one. Ishmael was the first one to sign in. You know, the last notes of Reveille hardly played, and Ishmael was signing in. And let's see, I got Tom Moffness, who refers to me as Senator and Coach Bob. I'll waive the senator, but really appreciate the coach part of it. And let's see, I got Jack Hattick with a message, transaction versus transition. It seems the government is focused on spending rather than saving in the waning days of the administration and legislative term. Good observation, Jack. And Jack is also saying, half a day, Guam. I got Lee Stonley here, who's afternoon, and Javier, he pronounces it Javier. When he's here, he's Javier Atalig. When he's Gilita, he's Javier Atalik. But it's still the same guy, right? And the word from Javier is Biba Mangatsun. Now, old Frank Blas Sr., fellow travelers would understand the words Biba Mangatsun. They would see the significance of that. Chris Abalencia is warning, you'll shoot your eye out. And it seemed to be, every old man was programmed to say every time he saw a kid with a Daisy Red Ryder, hey, you better be careful that BB gun. You're going to put your eye out. And then Jose Martinez with his ad for the Daisy Red Ryder. And let's see here. Tom Moffness. Hey, Mr. Hattick, I'm sorry you didn't win, but maybe next time will be better. I'm here on Guam and hoping for a better Guam. Well, Jack kind of got to first base last time. He made it through the primary, so he made it. He got to first base, and I'm just kind of got my fingers crossed that next time around he won't strike out. I've got high hopes for him. And we got Jose Martinez on gun-free zones, like the genius who began printing and distributing those signs that said, "This home is gun-free." Some people are verbose. Some people just paint a picture. Some people just paint a picture of a target. This home is gun-free. Criminals welcome. Just dry off your feet before you come in. We don't care about the guns. We just don't want you tracking any dirt into the house. And we've got a rare treat here. We've got Troy Torres. Hi, Bob and everyone. And welcome, Troy. Long time no look. Glad you're here. So that was the Second Amendment for today. And next we're going to go to... What's the name? What do I call the next part of the program here? Yeah.
Zemi Ikotny.
Zemi Ikotny. Meet the press. Press the meat. We compare and contrast the editorials of our two daily newspapers. Criticize them sometimes, compliment them sometimes. I've got my blue pencil here. I will give the better one a coveted blue star today. It's not going to be a really hard call for me today, that's for sure. The Daily News is okay, though. The Daily News, our view, money for Guam Police Department survey could have been better spent elsewhere. GPD initially asked to distribute voluntary surveys outside polling sites on Election Day, but that plan was changed and the survey will be done later. The Police Department Public Opinion Survey might have started from good intentions. It might have, but I really kind of doubt it. I'm too cynical to think that. Fortunately, 56 grand should have been spent benefit the public has been instead invested in a survey that may yield questionable results. The survey is being conducted in conjunction with the university where Police Chief Joseph Cruz, but he's not the real Joe Cruz.
No, but when he was became chief, I kept getting congratulations from people. And I kept saying, that's not me.
Yeah. Well, I suspect the turnabout is probably also first fair play, because I suspect that when it became known that you were the producer for Tall Tales, people were probably congratulating him. Good going, Joe Cruz. Man, you're really coming up in the world. Tall Tales, wow. You'll be actually working there instead of being the butt of some of the criticism that comes out of there. Yeah. Cruz, a political appointee under outgoing Governor Eddie Calvo, might not be the police chief once the new gubernatorial administration is sworn in. I think you could probably bet on that. And Cruz not being the chief of police is the subject of the first item on the card today. You'll want to stick around for this, and it's called Incumbents versus Lou and Josh. So you want to stick around and pick up on that one. Under the original 2016 funding proposal to the Guam Economic Development Authority, GPD wanted to use 60 grand to send police officers to San Diego for off-island training and for some equipment. That didn't work out. In September 2017, Cruz wrote to Gita asking that the $56,000 instead be used for a neighborhood watch smartphone app. Gita approved the money for the app. Apparently that plan didn't work out, because 5 months later, Cruz asked that the money instead be used for a survey. Gita approved the money for the survey. The survey is lengthy, with 8 pages soliciting 100 different responses. Wow. Probably put together by the same folks that do the 1040. The department printed 30,000 copies and originally planned to have uniformed officers administer the survey to voters on Election Day. A couple of academics chimed in and said that wasn't a really good idea. And then getting down to the punchline here, now nobody knows when the survey will be conducted because GPD will likely have a new chief. It's unclear if the results of the survey will ever be used. good intentions don't excuse wasteful spending. If there are any good intentions here, you know, all of the speculation here revolves around Joe Cruz. That Joe Cruz. It would be another Joe Cruz. Now, I'll come back to Joe Cruz right after I take 5 here, real Joe Cruz.
John Gibson, digging up history. The separation of church and state is a cherished concept here in America, but did you hear about the time it happened on the moon? That story after this. Hey, it's John Gibson. What's the best Italian restaurant in New York City? It's Rayo's. I've been a few times. Spectacular. Problem? 12 tables. Virtually impossible to get in. Solution? Rayos.com. That's R-A-O, Rayos.com. That's where you'll find the handmade sauces that have made Rayos so famous in New York City. It's the sauce, and nobody makes Italian sauces like Rayos. Rayos.com for Rayos at home. Rayos.com, it's the sauce. Back to my story. Astronaut Buzz Aldrin was about to walk on the moon. In the lunar lander, he asked for silence and took Holy Communion on the moon. Aldrin was an official of his church. He'd gotten clerical permission to bring a wafer and wine. Quietly, he swallowed the wafer and wine, the first food or drink on the moon, by the way, and said a short prayer. Out of respect for other earthly religions, Christianity was kept inside, not on the surface of the moon. Back on Earth, NASA was worried about atheists who had sued over an earlier astronaut prayer. The government managers at NASA asked Aldrin to keep it quiet, owing to the separation of church and state, even on the moon. I'm John Gibson, digging up history.
For over 30 years, Sanford Technology Group has been helping companies throughout Guam and Micronesia with their payroll, time and attendance, networking, and other information technology services. Our online integrated payroll and time and attendance solution provides the workforce management tools and expertise to make your business more efficient and employee-friendly. For more information, visit Sanford Technology at 335 South Marine Corps Drive or call us at 647-0220 to schedule a demo today.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training every morning on The Ray Gibson Show.
When life throws things at us that get in our way and hold us back from the happiness and success that we deserve, we all know why that is, don't we? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we're going to fish around for a little clarity on that subject.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point by Jerry Roberts at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts on The Ray Gibson Show on 93.3 The Point.
Jeff's Pirates Cove, open daily at 8 a.m., serving up hot breakfast with endless coffee and a taste of history.
And now, back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the one radio show politicians don't want you to listen to. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Yeah, so that Chief Joe Cruz, also known as another Joe Cruz. He's not the real Joe Cruz. You know, the suspicions were that he was enrolled in a program in the University of the South Pacific attempting to attain a Ph.D., and the subject matter of his Ph.D. was suspiciously similar to the research that that survey would be sort of at least tangential to. So this is, you know, there was some suspicion. Is real Joe, is the other Joe want to do this as part of his PhD? And he denied it profusely. He said no, it's not the same thing, etc. But you know, it was out there. So I guess we don't have to worry about it now because we're just going to spend $56,000 for nothing. We're not going to get a survey. We're not going to get anything else out of it. So that's it for the Daily News. Now I turn to the Post, and the editorial in the Post is titled, AG's Office Must Look into Possible Open Government Law Violation.
I know you don't like talking about yourself, Bob, but this is about you.
So I guess I got to, huh, Rush?
Yeah, that's right.
we got a new guy in the control room here. Rush Limbaugh leaped from the airwaves into our control room and is sounded just like, you sounded just like Rush Limbaugh. Okay. So the title of this editorial here, AG's office must look into possible open government law violation. The CCU is supposed to conduct meetings and make decisions after it has given adequate notice to the public of the upcoming meeting. Former Senator Bob Klitzkie, you were right, Joe. Former Senator Bob Klitzkie has once again spoken out when many others didn't on the issue of holding our local government accountable. On Black Friday, the largest shopping holiday for U.S. shoppers, executive branch officials and employees gained an extra holiday when Governor Eddie Calvo thought the Governor of Guam's workers needed a break from work. The Guam Waterworks Authority and the Guam Power Authority mirrored the holiday, even when they previously argued about having separate decision-making when it comes to executive branch directives to cut payroll spending and trim other expenses. Klitzkie aptly remarked, GPA and GWA, they're independent unless it doesn't suit them. Then they're not so independent. A day's holiday pay for GPA costs about $30,000 and $40,000 for GWA. That's money that will somehow end up getting paid by ratepayers of power and water. Well, again, we're getting burned here by this statement because the the truth is burned, just like Edward Byrne burned it with respect to the general government, saying, well, it only costs $150,000 for that Black Friday holiday. And the $150,000 was the $150,000 that would be necessary to pay people to work. And actually, the true sum for the Black Friday was $810,000. That's the money we're paying people who don't work. But a dollar is a dollar. So if you get paid for not working, it's a waste of money. If you have to pay somebody to do something that he ordinarily does anyhow when he's on the payroll, that's a waste of money. So Byrne was very effective here. He's added a new verb to the tall tales lingo to make a burn state. To burn someone with a statement is to say something that isn't wrong, it's not a lie, but is extremely misleading. That's what it means that's what I mean when I say we're getting burned here by this figure. Now, I don't know how much the Power and Water Authority spent paying people who didn't come to work. I'm going to find out because they do have a sunshine law request in to get that information. But I can tell you it's a whole lot more than $70,000. The $70,000 is to pay people to work who should have been working anyhow. Going on with the editorial, the newly elected Attorney General must look into how the Consolidated Commission on Utilities justified giving the holiday to GWA and GPA. The CCU is supposed to conduct meetings and make decisions after it has given adequate notice to the public of the upcoming meeting. In the CCU decision to make Black Friday a holiday, the Commission simply held a poll among commissioners on whether the power and water agencies can sanction the holiday, knowing it couldn't make a vote because it didn't give the public adequate public notice on the issue. The CCU decided it was okay to skip the requirements of the open government law and officially approve the extra holiday after the fact, at a meeting days after the actual holiday. Yesterday, this caused me to suggest that somewhere amongst all of the high-powered equipment that the Power Authority owns, they must have a time machine so they could turn the time machine on and set it properly and go back and approve that which happened on Friday, say on Tuesday. The rest of us don't have time machines. Commissioner Simon Sanchez didn't agree with the so-called poll vote, citing the cost of the surprise gift of a holiday for GWA and GPA. Under the open government law, the only time any board or commission can make a decision is in a properly called and noticed meeting, Klitzkie has said. Klitzkie succeeded in winning an open government law case against the Department of Land Management. Actually, that was a sunshine law case, but I did win. We need our elected attorney general to weigh in on this issue, which is bound to happen again. And when I finish, you'll see just exactly how prophetic this editorial is. Because ordinarily, you would expect when someone does something wrong, I think what happens when you do something wrong, you're supposed to confess, and then you're supposed to do penance. And the penance, the confession means, yeah, I did something wrong. And the penance is, I know I did something wrong, and I'm not going to do it again. And then you don't do it again. But the CCU apparently has a totally different approach to that, which I'll get to in just a minute. We need our elected attorney general to weigh in on this issue, which is bound to happen again. Incoming Attorney General Levin Camacho won on a campaign to hear and address everyday folks' concerns. This is just one of a growing number of examples we hope Camacho will look into. Okay. Now, I talked about this on Tuesday because it was in an article in the Post. And just let me read a couple of quotes from that article in the Post. Yeah, here it is. If Bob Klitzkie thinks we're off, we can have our attorneys look at it, said CCU Commissioner Simon Sanchez, but it's my understanding that it's allowed. This is the polling vote, right? Sanchez explained that the decision to give most GPA and GWA employees off on Friday was made by a poll vote conducted during a regularly scheduled CCU work session on November 20. I'll read that sentence again. Sanchez explained that the decision to give most GPA and GWA employees a day off on Friday was made by a poll vote conducted during a regular scheduled CCU work session on November 20. Declaring the day after Thanksgiving a holiday was not on the agenda that day, but the topic was raised wherein the commissioners were polled and approval was given. There may be a legal issue, said Sanchez, but he added CCU's legal counsel has looked at this issue over the years, and I can say from experience that we've been advised by prior counsel that a poll vote of this nature will be allowed. Then you can ratify at a formally called meeting as long as it's on the agenda. Now, these are quotes from a commissioner. Now, I went to the CCU's website, and I was able to obtain a resolution, GPA Resolution 2018-31 and GWA Resolution 10 FY 2019. And see if you can determine whether this resolution speaks to the same event that the quotes I just read you from the Post speak to. The title of the resolution, relative to the ratification of November 23 as a holiday for the Power Authority and Waterworks Authority. Whereas the Consolidated Commission on Utilities is the governing body for the Power Authority and Water Authority, and whereas the Power Authority and the Water Authority are public corporations of the government of Guam, here's a little gratuitous plug, whereas the Power Authority and Water Authority continue to work diligently to provide essential power and water services to the island, and a day off is well deserved by the hard-working employees to contribute to the island economy. That's great, you know. That's just great. The Power and Water Authority diligently provide essential power and water services, and they deserve a day off. I think Thanksgiving was a day off, and I think we have a regular schedule of holidays in the calendar that people who work for the government of Guam are entitled to, including the folks at Power and Water. Saturday and Sunday are days off, unless you happen to be in one of those occupations that's a 24/7 occupation. But there's still rules that apply there. Time and a half over 40, extra night differential, etc. But anyhow, apparently if you mumble something like this, that the Power and Water Authority worked diligently to provide essential power and water, and that the employees, and a day off is well deserved by the hard-working employees, that kind of excuses you from complying with the open government law, as long as you express the proper predicate there. Next, whereas the office of the governor has issued an executive order declaring Friday, November 23, a holiday for the government of Guam. And whereas the general managers of the Power Authority and Water Authority adopted the governor's executive order declaring a holiday. That isn't what I saw in the news yesterday. I didn't see anything at all about the general managers. What I saw was the commissioners doing a poll vote at a work session on November 20. I guess maybe this is what we call revisionist history. Whereas the Power Authority and Water Authority now wish to solicit ratification authorization from CCU for GWA and GPA for adopting the executive order from the office of the governor. So it's okay to violate the open government law with this polling mechanism, right? And then you ask the CCU to adopt a resolution ratifying it, but what you're asking is that the two authorities now wish to solicit ratification authorization from CCU for GPA, GWA for adopting the executive order from the office of the governor. So the CCU had nothing to do with this. It was the two general managers who saw the governor's executive order and said, yeah, we're going to do that too. Pay no attention to those folks at the work session who did this poll. Apparently that has been overridden. It's kind of like on a computer program where you can override that which was there before. So we're just going to ignore that. I got to take 5 here, and then I'll come back and work on this a little bit more. This thing requires a lot of work.
Be merry, be bright, and make shopping all right with holiday gift cards from King's Restaurants. Give a gift they are sure to love. Delicious food and friendly fun at King's. Get a coupon for a free single crepe with every $20 gift card purchase. Extra holiday happiness from King's Restaurants. Be merry, be bright, and make shopping all right with holiday gift cards from Chuck E. Cheese's Guam, Ruby Tuesday, and King's Restaurants. Receive special offers with every purchase for extra holiday happiness. See stores for details and have fun this season from all of us at the GFS Group.
It's important to have claims process that works for you. At Guahan Insurance Services, we make things simple and convenient. Same door you walk in to purchase your insurance is the same door you open to file your claim. We can't pretend that the car insurance claims process is fun, but we can promise a hassle-free and speedy recovery without any runarounds. For your home, auto, and business insurance, visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center on Marine Corps Drive in Tamuning. Don't forget to like us on Facebook or give us a call at 475-1162 or text 929-SAVE. That's 929-7283.
Call the experts at Guam Hearing Doctors if you're worried about your hearing. The evaluation is simple and painless.
So we got some folks chiming in on the on Facebook here. Ted Lewis, but in the end, and it cost the taxpayers of Guam over $1 million. What a waste for a lame duck governor. And he's talking about the big Thanksgiving holiday. Jose Martinez, holiday pay for GWA, GPA on a non-holiday? That's like leaving the lights on and the water running. Yeah, but it would be okay, Jose, if you left the lights on and the water running. I don't think if you made this argument, you might not have to pay the bill caused by doing that. If you said that you continue to work diligently to provide essential services to the island, and a low water bill is well-deserved by a hardworking employee like you, then it would be okay. I think this makes everything okay. So, reading the resolution now, classic revisionist history, because we read a story in the Post yesterday that quoted one of the commissioners as saying, well, yeah, we thought it was okay to do this poll voting. We've been doing it ever since, and we've been told it's okay. We could do the poll voting and then just ratify it at the next regular meeting, so long as we complied with if the meeting is properly called and noticed. Then it would be okay. That's what the quote in the paper said, and made it very clear that the reason that Power and Water authorities didn't work on Black Friday was because of that poll vote. Do the poll vote and then ratify it later on. But now that has been completely contradicted by this resolution that I got off the CCU website. Power Authority and Water Authority now wish to solicit ratification authorization from the CCU for GWA and GPA for adopting the executive order from the Office of the Governor. So all that stuff about the polling never happened. If I were to take everything that's in this resolution and put it all together, apparently what happened, because the blame here and the previous resolution, whereas clause, the general managers of Power and Water adopted the governor's executive order declaring the holiday. So this is the mental image I get. We've got the two general managers, and the governor declares an executive order, and let's see, it's Miguel Bordallo and John Benavente. Miguel says, hey, John, come over, take a look at this. It's an executive order from the governor. It says that GovGuam employees can take Black Friday off and get paid for it. Yeah, that's what it says, but you know, aren't we supposed to be autonomous? John? Yeah, that's what we keep saying, but, you know, do you want to have a day off or not? Yeah. You know, it's, you know, our employees work hard, and they really deserve a day off. And they never get a day off unless you and I give them a special day off, right? This is the mental image that I'm conjuring up here. Yeah, you make a good point here. They deserve another day off. Just because they had Thursday off, that isn't enough. Yeah, so I'll tell you what. We'll just tell everybody that works for Power and Water, stay home and you're going to get paid anyhow. And then next week, we'll ask the CCU to ratify that decision, because they haven't thought about this at all before. That Kabuki theater that some people might have seen on November 20, that was called a work session for the Power Authority, that really never happened. So we'll just give everybody a day off. And then on Tuesday, we'll ask the Power Authority, the CCU, to ratify our adopting the governor's executive order. You can't make this stuff up. You know, I'm picking this up from a story that appeared in the Post where one of the commissioners was interviewed and told us what happened on the November 20 work session. And then I've got a resolution that the CCU adopted last night, and there's this huge disconnect. So then we get to the next part of it, the resolve clause. Here's the resolve clause. November 23, 2018 was properly adopted as a holiday for the Power Authority and the Water Authority with limited staffing for customer payments, customer service, and engineering. Now, I guess I left one thing out of my vision. I guess John and Maggette also got their heads together and say, you know, maybe some people might want to come into our headquarters and do something with their bills or something like that. So we ought to at least keep that part of the organization operating. And then Maggette says, yeah, I know, but we're giving everybody else a day off. If we bring those people in, we got to pay them an extra day's pay. Yeah, fair is fair. You're right about that, Maggette. Yeah, that's what we got to do. This is the mental image I have. So after all of this happened, then I guess those of us who listened to Tall Tales yesterday are supposed to erase that part of our memory where I went through yesterday's story in the Post where we found out about the poll vote, and we'll just go ahead and do it. We will make the decision, and we'll just go ahead and do the poll vote next Tuesday and ratify the poll vote that we took, because we've been doing it before, and it's okay. I hope somebody looks into this, because this is not the way for a government to run. It's government by pretending is what it means. We'll just pretend that we didn't do this poll vote last Tuesday. We'll just pretend that our general managers wanted to comply with the governor's executive order, which we said in the past we don't have to comply with. We'll just do that. And then come Tuesday, we'll pretend that none of that stuff happened, and we'll once again tip our hats to our hardworking employees and ratify the decision that we say the two general managers made, but of course we know that that's not true. It's just not a good idea. And unfortunately, it's not the first time that things like this happened. Yeah, Jose Martinez says, pretending they didn't poll vote is pole vaulting. So let me see if anybody else commented on it. Not yet. Unfortunately, I see things like this that, not like this, but of this kind of operation. Government agencies do things that are not correct. They do something wrong. And then later on, they say, well, maybe it was wrong, but we're not going to do anything about it. We'll just condone it retroactively. And it's usually the argument is because people did what we told them to do, and we were wrong, but we told them what to do, so they shouldn't have to suffer for it. I'm going to come back to that theme right after the big halftime show we have every day at 5 o'clock, and then we'll move on. We'll finish this up and move into the rest of the card, which starts out incumbents versus Lou and Josh.
Is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Mrs. Hyde-Smith goes to Washington. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Republican Cindy Hyde-Smith winning the runoff election for the Senate seat in Mississippi.
I am going to Washington, D.C., first thing in the morning, I've got to be at work. They're calling and they're looking for me. I will be there starting in the morning.
Hyde Smith beating former Democrat Congressman Mike Espy.
I'm so very grateful for all the support that we received across Mississippi, in the churches, in the union halls, in the corporate boardrooms, in the classrooms.
Mrs. Hyde Smith winning despite controversy over a remark about public hangings, which Espy and others thought were racially insensitive. The senator says she understands the remarks were blown out of proportion. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort says it's not true, a report in a British newspaper, that he had multiple meetings with WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange.
From his jail cell in solitary confinement, Manafort fiercely denied the story, in a statement saying, "This story is totally false and deliberately libelous. I have never met Julian Assange or anyone connected to him. I have never been contacted by anyone connected to WikiLeaks, either directly or indirectly." WikiLeaks also issued a denial in a tweet saying WikiLeaks is willing to bet The Guardian $1 million in its editor's head that Manafort never met Assange.
Fox's John Roberts, the White House denying any knowledge of the reported meetings. An attempt to bring up a bill designed to protect special counsel Robert Mueller's job failing in the Senate Tuesday when Majority Leader Mitch McConnell objected.
This is a solution in search of a problem. The president's not going to fire Robert Mueller, nor do I think he should, nor do I think he should not be allowed to finish.
Outgoing Republican Arizona Senator Jeff Flake says he'll try again Wednesday. This is Fox News.
We're surrounded by sound. There are sounds that you need to hear. There are sounds that you want to hear. And there are sounds that you long to hear. Hear it all, louder and clearer than ever before. If you or someone you know has a hard time hearing, Guam Hearing Doctors can help, using state-of-the-art test gear to evaluate your hearing and coming up with a plan to make your life better by making your hearing better. Call Guam Hearing Doctors for an appointment or visit them on the web at guamhearingdoctors.com.
Be merry, be bright, and make shopping all right with holiday gift cards from Ruby Tuesday. Buy a $25 or $50 gift card for those on your shopping list. Get a $15 bonus coupon with every $50 card purchase. Some extra holiday happiness from Ruby Tuesday. Be merry, be bright, and make shopping all right with holiday gift cards from Chuck E. Cheese's Guam. Get a free medium pizza with every $25 gift card purchase and a free extra large pizza with every $50 gift card purchase. Some extra holiday happiness from Chuck E. Cheese's Guam.
Opinion. Transportation inspectors in Indonesia releasing information from the flight data recorder from that Lion Air jet that crashed last month.
That black box data shows that the pilots were struggling to fight this all the way from takeoff. They also asked for ground control to give them their speed, their altitude, suggesting they weren't understanding what they're seeing from their own instruments. And there's been questions over whether this is to do with automation, an automatic system designed to keep the plane from stalling, instead pushing the nose of the plane down against the pilot's will. So what they'll be trying to do with the next stage of investigation is explain exactly what caused that last fatal descent into the sea at such high velocity.
Sky News correspondent Tom Cheshire reports investigators say the plane wasn't airworthy and should have been grounded. That crash killed 189 people. A Catholic priest from Steubenville, Ohio, sentenced to 12 years in jail for impregnating a teenaged altar girl. The Reverend Henry Foxhoven pleading guilty to sexual battery. He must also register as a convicted sex offender. Those encounters started in August and ended just a few weeks ago. A federal appeals court upholding most of the convictions against two former allies, the former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, in the George Washington Bridge lane closure scandal. Bridget Kelly and Bill Baroni were convicted in 2016 in a plot to cause traffic jams to punish a mayor for not endorsing Christie's re-election bid. A fight over a half-baked potato puts a Florida man behind bars.
Kenneth Crumpton is in the Nassau County, Florida jail outside Jacksonville after admitting he threw a fork at a woman inside a home. The woman says she was stabbed by that fork in the head and other places. Detectives agree she had multiple stab wounds and was bleeding all over. The police report says the altercation was sparked by the fact the potato was undercooked. And Crumpton says while he threw the fork, it bounced off the woman's head. In Miami, Evan Brown, Fox News.
In New York, I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Enjoy a world-class breakfast in historic Talafofo at Jeff's Pirates Cove. Serving as both a military dispensary, recreation, and rehab center for pilots after the war, Jeff's Pirates Cove offers a taste of local history while you start your day with a delicious omelet or steak and eggs. If you're on a budget, pick up one of Jeff's $8 breakfasts, all served up with endless coffee. For reservations and information, call 789-COVE. That's 789-2683. Start your day at Jeff's Pirates Cove. Open daily at 8 a.m. in historic Ipan, Talafofo.
Hafa Day, Tritons. This is Tito Castro, proud alumnus of the University of Guam, class of 2015, and president of the UOG Alumni Association. As a working Triton and first-generation college student, I know the value of a university education and call upon my fellow alumni, parents, and friends to make that education affordable and accessible to all during this year's G is Forgiving campaign. To make a tax-deductible donation, log on to supportuog.org by December 31st or call 735-2957 for more information.
Viva UOG!
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Sanford Technology Group, STG, delivering service that can't be beat.
Well, there you go. Another great halftime show right here on Tall Tales. And going back to Facebook, today is Jose Martinez's day. He must have had carrots for breakfast or something like that, because he's right on. Jose Martinez says this, meaning this whole CCU kerfuffle. This is such a ripe subject. Black Friday is not supposed to have us seeing red. It'll have them seeing red if they keep doing it, if they keep doing this habit of paying people not to come to work and then paying people extra who actually do come to work. And then I've got a good one here from Daryl Taggarty. Good afternoon, Daryl, and your dad. Daryl says, GovGuam, GPA, GWA employees have worked hard enough to get Christmas Eve Monday off. Christmas is on a Tuesday this year, and that means that Monday comes between Sunday and Christmas. So if the employees had Monday off, wouldn't that be nice? That would be a 4-day weekend. That would be just as good as Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I haven't checked with the staff down at the Election Commission on the math, but I think it's the same number of days off, the same kind of a weekend. Yeah, so Daryl says employees have worked hard enough to get Christmas Eve Monday off. He asks a question. And then he says, maybe the GMs haven't thought that far forward. Well, they probably wouldn't unless the governor issued an executive order. Let me see. The proper order here is that the governor issues an executive order a week before, let's see, Monday would be the 24th. Governor issues an executive order on, say, the 17th or 18th. The two GMs get together on Friday and decide, let's give everybody a day off on Monday, and then everybody gets the day off on Monday except those people who actually come in and do their jobs, and then they get paid extra. But it's okay because the first CCU meeting in January, the CCU will ratify the decisions of the two general managers to adopt the governor's executive order. I think I've got the sequence down pat. Now, I can't quite remember where the poll vote comes in. Let me think about that. Well, wait a minute. You got to have a working session between the time the governor issues the executive order and the actual day off, so that at the working session, which is not an official meeting, it's not a properly called and noticed meeting where actual decisions can be made, but at that working session, you poll the members of the CCU, and if the majority of the members of the CCU say, yeah, we should give them the day off, then you do it, and then you set the resolution writer to work. You could use the same resolution that I just read as your template. You wouldn't have to have a handle on what actually happened at all. All you need to do is just copy the fiction that's set forth in that resolution, and you'd have all your bases covered for that extra day off. The most important part of the resolution that you'd want the CCU to adopt is this one. Whereas the Power Authority and Water Authority continue to work diligently, except on the days that they don't work, continue to work diligently to provide essential power and water services to the island, and a day off is well deserved by the hard-working employees to contribute to the island economy. That's the key words in the resolution. So long as you got that in there, it'll come out right. That and the resolve clause that says that the holiday was properly adopted by the Power Authority and the Water Authority with limited staffing for customer payments, customer service, and engineering. That's how it would be done. So is that going to happen? Anybody? Is there a betting man in the house? Will the day between the day before Christmas be a holiday? And of course, if we're going to do it, the same thing would be true of the day before New Year's. The 30th of December would also be sandwiched between a Sunday and a New Year's holiday. So, I think, the employees work hard and they are entitled to these days off. Something to, I would say it's something to think about, but it's not. It's something to abhor. So I'm going to, is there much suspense about where the A is going to go this time, or the star is going to go this time, real jokers?
I don't think so, sir.
No,
let's just do this anyways.
Yeah. All of the planets lined up. It was a well-written editorial that made a very good point. It not only agreed with me, it gave me some strokes. Right? So we'll put this one away. And before the break, I was saying that we see this trend in our government where government agencies do something that's wrong. And if they do it wrong long enough, then that becomes a defense. Well, yeah, we did it wrong, but we've been doing it wrong for a long time. And the people in our agency that did it wrong weren't doing anything wrong because we've always done it that way. And then besides that, we've got to just let it go because there were innocent people who relied on what we told them to do, and they shouldn't have to suffer because they were dumb enough to listen to us. That's a classic case of the CCU. The CCU said nobody did anything wrong because they did the same thing that we've always done. It was wrong, but they did the same thing that we've always done. And, a lot of them, got affidavits and turned them in to the staff at the CLTC. We didn't hear a single name of any of these people. Turned it in, and, they shouldn't have to suffer because we did something wrong. But we're going to continue to do something wrong. We're going to ask the legislature to clean it up for us. We're going to continue to do it because we got away with it. And that's why I think that this thing with the CCU can't end here, because the possibility is that the commissioners are going to be lulled into that same sense of security that it's okay to do stuff wrong, provided that you pander to your employees. You got to pander to somebody to make it come out right. And then you also have to kind of pretend that that no one did anything wrong, and then you could do it again the next time, and you keep doing it, and then you get into the point where you say, well, we've been doing this for a long time. I guess it must be okay. Another example, signs. We're trying really hard to make Guam look like Las Vegas. We're putting up all of these fancy digital signs, where if you were lucky, when you were driving through the ITC intersection, you could see Ray Tenorio waving to you from that sign. Those things are an abomination. They make our community look extremely ugly, and they're popping up all over the place. And when this first came to light, it came to light from the vantage point that the Attorney General said those signs are illegal, because the Land Use Commission said, issued something called a variance to allow for those signs, but the law did not allow the Land Use Commission to issue a variance for that kind of construction. I went through the whole analysis here on Tall Tales a couple of times, and the Attorney General was right for once. But, we pretended, well, yeah, I know, but they're there, and we've been doing this. Tom Addis said, it's time we update our sign law. It hasn't been updated for 40 years. Well, if that's Tom's idea of updating the sign law, turning Guam into a garish honky-tonk with all of these electric signs, then let's leave it the way it was 40 years ago. And the actual truth to be told is this, that the sign law that we adopted 40 years ago was, I'm probably going to have to wash my mouth out with soap when I get home tonight, but that sign law was actually quite progressive. Did I say that? It was actually quite progressive, because the trend 40 years ago in the mainland, when the interstate highways first started popping up, there was a big fight about keeping billboards away from the interstate highways. And there was some lobbying in Congress to, prohibit billboards within, 1,000 yards of interstate highways, et cetera. It didn't go. But a lot of the states picked up on that idea and had very stringent sign regulations, as we did, and it was good, because our sign regulations said that you could have a sign on the side of your building. And the example I always give is that if I opened a hamburger joint downtown, I could have the sign on the side of my building that said Bob's Hamburger Joint. If my hamburger joint were, say, in Aniguac, I could have that sign on the side of my building, but I couldn't erect a sign on the outskirts of Dadido that said "Eat at Bob's Hamburger Joint" in Aniguac. That's what we're talking about. And this was seen as forward-looking, progressive legislation at the time that it was adopted. Our signs were supposed to be tasteful. They were supposed to be only for the purpose of identifying the business inside the building. So that was modern then, and it's still modern, and it's still progressive, and it's still the way to go. But somehow the Land Use Commission succumbed to these requests for variances when the Land Use Commission didn't have that authority. So what did we do? We condoned it. And now we've embraced it. We've made it easier for those signs to come up when we should have stomped it out from the get-go. And by the way, my least favorite word was used to describe the signs that had been illegally erected. Well, we could grandfather those in. And I don't know how long it's been since I mentioned that that is not a good word to use to make a point. It goes back to the Jim Crow South, and it was used to keep black people. All you identity politics folks out there, you should never use the word grandfather clause, because a grandfather clause allowed people to vote whose grandfathers voted before the Civil War. Well, how many black people had grandfathers who voted before the Civil War? Not very many. So that was the idea. Well, we'll just grandfather them in and it'll be okay, and then we'll expand it, etc. That was the CCU and that particular kerfuffle. We've had Chief Cruz, another Joe Cruz, quoted in the Post as saying, according to the law, I have to provide security to the governor and the lieutenant governor and the first lady. This was after the first, the $22,000 was spent providing security for the first lady when she went to London to pick up her kid from college. And Joe Cruz says, I have to do that according to the law. And he was called out on it. He stuck with it. So it seems that there's this approach that we'll do something that's wrong, and if we can get away with it, fine, we'll just keep doing it. But if it turns to ashes on us, then we'll give lip service to doing the right thing, not do anything to hold anyone accountable for anything, and then try to figure out some other way of doing the same thing. That's a classic case of what the Land Trust Commission has done, and is attempting to do with the help of Tom Atta. However, the legislature's in session now, and Tom Atta had the let's sweep it under the rug bill. But with respect to this session, was it something that Tom Atta did with regard to that matter, Real Joe Cruz?
It's what he didn't do, sir.
What didn't he do?
He didn't have the meeting.
He didn't have that bill ready to go, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just like Sherlock Holmes, it's what Tom Atta didn't do, huh? Yeah. Okay. So that's and we're not done with the CCU and Black Friday, and I don't know what you'd call the day before Christmas Eve day, I guess. We're not done with that. I'm not going to let that go. It's just too important to say, well, yeah, they should have done it, but the employees work hard, and let's look forward instead of backward, etc. Everybody likes to talk about accountability, but when it comes down to doing anything other than talking about it, the crowd thins out really quick. Okay, going to the card. First item on the card is incumbents versus Lou and Josh. Next item on the card, by the way, if you're curious, is Tina Rose Munya Barnes versus Nancy Pelosi. That's a pretty interesting one. So, incumbents, we're coming up to the change of an administration. We're getting a Governor Lou Leon Guerrero in place of a Governor Eddie Calvo. And when administrations change, a lot of people are looking for jobs. Andrew Jackson, back at the time when he was elected, caused a certain amount of havoc because he fired an awful lot of the federal workforce and brought his own supporters on board. And the rationale for that was, well, to the victors go the spoils. And that's where the term spoils system came from. Now, we've modified the spoil system here somewhat, but it still lingers on with so-called unclassified employees, and with classified employees, because we have a merit system here that has been imposed upon us by the Organic Act. that says that every government of Guam employee should be employed in a job that's part of the merit system unless it would be impracticable to do so. And I'll come back to that magic word, impracticable, in a few minutes. It doesn't mean the same thing as impractical. So we have unclassified employees in our government, and most unclassified employees live and die by the political sword. If your Gadzu is elected, then you could hope that he will find a job for you and yours. Classic example, all the folks who work down at the governor's office are unclassified employees. So we could expect that when the new administration comes in, all of those folks will be streaming out of there. There are other unclassified employees in the government. Up until now, every agency had a director, a deputy director, and a private secretary who were unclassified. So the governor would appoint his director, confirmed by the legislature. Theoretically, the director would choose a deputy director. Practically, that choice is usually made by the governor. And the same thing for the private secretary. Well, when the administration changes, those folks are gone. Once in a blue moon, a director can hold over from one administration, from one party's administration to the other party's administration. It happens, but boy, it doesn't happen very often. So the game is, if you have unclassified employees working for the government, if you could somehow slide those unclassified employees into classified positions, then they would be protected from the regime change. Now, the classic example was Joey San Nicolas, who about a year ago was the fire chief and went from being the fire chief as an unclassified employee to being the deputy fire chief, which is classified. So when Lou and John come in, Joey's still going to have a job. And there's other complexities at the fire department that I won't have time to get into today. But that is what happens at the change of administration, that there is a compulsion sometimes to change those in the unclassified service to classified employees to protect them from the political winds of change. And when it doesn't happen, people are looking for it anyhow. And if it doesn't happen, I suspect a lot of times people see it, even though it doesn't happen, because it's one of those, well, everybody knows, right? So I've got a couple of incumbents here that are part of the card here, incumbents versus Lou and Josh. And the two incumbents are Mana Silva and another Joe Cruz. So I'll start out with the easy one. That would be another Joe Cruz. So another Joe Cruz is the chief of police. And if you listen to Ray Gibson this morning, it's hard for me to imagine people starting their day without listening to Ray Gibson. Maybe that's because I always do it, and I recommend it to all my friends. But if you really want to get your day off to a good start, the Ray Gibson Show, 6 a.m., 93.3, 888-8255 is a good way to do it. And this morning, Ray Gibson was talking about something that he was kind of directed to on a website called Candid. And it went into the speculation about Joe Cruz. And I've read that same website myself. And having read the website and having listened to Ray's remarks, I think I can speak with authority here on another Joe Cruz, which I will do right after the seventh inning stretch.
The season of giving is here, and the stations of Choice Broadcasting want to give back. 93.3 The Point, Boss 104, Star 101, and Lux Guam present Charity of Choice. Each of our radio personalities have chosen a Guam charity that they would like to benefit.
And I chose Habitat for Humanity. Tune in daily to see how you can help.
Charity of Choice 2018 is brought to you by Choice Broadcasting Company, Lux Guam, American Water Tech, and the station that gives from the heart, 93.3 The Point.
Bring joy to your world and your budget with a holiday loan from First Hawaiian Bank. At a low 4.99% APR fixed for 1 year, it's a smart way to add ho 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 without budget uh-oh. To apply for a holiday loan, visit any First Hawaiian Bank branch or FHB.com. For more information, call 1-877-640-2337. Additional restrictions apply. First Hawaiian Bank. It all starts with yes. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Life is too short to be isolated from the people you love. Hearing loss is the invisible disability. The experts at Guam Hearing Doctors have solutions.
So here we are out in the center field bleachers at Wrigley Field, and I've just run into a guy who does a pretty good Yogi Berra. He's not Yogi Berra, but he could probably fool you, so I'm just going to refer to him as Yogi anyhow. So, Yogi, are there some tough physical requirements to be a baseball player?
Well, baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical.
90% mental and the other half is physical. You know, that's pretty good, Yogi. Yogi has told us, given us a couple of other good insights. Yogi has told us to never answer an anonymous letter. And with respect to the number of folks at the ballpark, he said if people don't want to come out to the ballpark, nobody's going to stop them. So very good, Yogi. Thank you very much for that. And I've got a phone call here from what some folks would think is a regular feature of Tall Tales. It's our Carl, also known as Carlito. Good afternoon, Carlito.
Good afternoon, Bob. Yeah, I just wanted to call in and kind of, if you'd allow me to steer the conversation in the direction of a specific bill that's been brought up by the departing Senator Estevez, his bill to allow people to go into public records and change gender. And I had called up the other station and a couple of times and dealt with this because my concern is I don't care what people do in their private lives, that's their business. But the problem is that in altering public records, there are complications that happen. One of them is that, as far as health considerations, if medical procedures are going to be done, a doctor's looking at medical records, and he thinks, for all intents and purposes, he's dealing with a completely female body, but unbeknownst to him, it's a male body. He's going to make certain medical judgments that may be completely off base.
So this was Estevez's bill that would allow someone who was born as, say, a male to have his birth certificate changed to show that they were a female? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's exactly the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, my concern is, there's really a big fad that's, I think it started pretty much in the campuses, among the intellectuals and the academics, of course, the Marxists, they've adopted this philosophy, the postmodernist view, and part of that is that the human personality is a social construct, that we are the way we are, our gender, our personality and such is totally because of society's inputs, and it's malleable. If we feel a certain way, and if we feel like a female and we want to be a female, well, we can completely alter our personality to actually be a female or a male, the other way around. And my concern is tinkering with reality. I saw an article some time ago in which the number of proposed genders had grown. At the time it was 16. I think it's way over 16 now. So my concern is, at what point do we draw the line? I brought up when I called in to another show, that I'm approaching 60. I lost my job at a late age, and getting a fresh start when you're a senior citizen is very hard, because when you apply for jobs, the company looks at you and they say, well, this guy's approaching 60, and I've got several people that are in their 20s and 30s and 40s. He's probably not going to last very long. He's going to retire soon, so I don't think I'm even going to give him a chance. So there is this thing called ageism. So should I be able to go into my records and say, well, I feel like I identify as a 29-year-old or a 39-year-old or a 49-year-old, so that I would have more opportunities, more job opportunities?
Of course, Carl.
I would be able to say this on an application.
Of course you should be able to say that, because you're being oppressed.
Yeah, and there's a huge number of senior citizens, so this is a completely ignored...
and they're all being oppressed by the younger capitalists in our society, and we didn't know this for a long time, but we now know that the reality is the cultural and social environment and pressures that an oppressor imposes upon the oppressed. So the whole thing about gender, I'll give you an example, Carl. When I was a youngster, there were these recruiting posters of young Marines sharply dressed in a dress blue uniform, which is probably the sharpest military uniform there ever was. I know you Air Force folks might not go along with that, but anyhow, there'd be these Marines in dress blues, and the slogan would be, "The Marine Corps builds men." So, if society tolerated that kind of oppression, you can imagine how that must have made people who identified themselves as females, how it must have made them feel at the time. So our government, our idea of government is that if anything causes people to suffer, it's the government's job to fix it, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that's impossible. There's some things that are just the way they are.
Well, and even if the government could, is that what should the government be fixing things? Like in your situation, the older you get, the harder it is to get a job. So the government should fix that in the manner that the Dutchman proposed. The guy in Holland filed suit to have his birth certificate amended so that instead of being 69, he'd be 49. He said it would make it much easier for him to get a job, to pick up chicks, and all these other things. And he was tired of the oppression that had been brought to him for being as old as he was. So anyhow, getting back to Estevez's bill, I think it's that kind of thinking that underlines Estevez's bill, isn't it?
Yes, and my point is that if we're going to go down that road, then it's only fair that all victims that have any kind of oppression should be able to go down that road too. I mean, why be selective? I mean, I'm a victim too. I'm approaching 60, and I'm seeing things happen in my life that I never thought would happen. I mean, losing my job was, my wife was ill at the time. That was, so I was depressed about that. My wife was dying.
Well, what about this? What about this? What if instead of using victims and villains as the touchstones upon which governments make their decision, we just kind of concentrate on individual rights and establish a climate where a political, social climate where people can kind of set their own course, and their achievement would be up to them, not to some ideas about oppression and villains and things like that. Would that work?
Yeah, and that's I kind of like you. As the older I get, the more libertarian I get with how people live their lives. I really have no problem with that, but I do have a problem with tinkering with reality. Because it just can spin wildly out of control, and I think we're seeing that from these like dozens and dozens of gender possibilities. It's just it's just gotten really kind of concerning.
Well, look at Fernandez's bill, and let me back up a second. How about what has happened to our language? Talking about Fernandez, Senator Fernandez, they introduced this bill that is actually would actually allow people to deviate from what actually is real, and I can't refer to Estevez as him, although I'm pretty sure he's a male. I have to refer to him as they, or I would be politically incorrect, right, Carl?
Yes, that's true. And another unforeseen consequence is in Canada and in parts of the United States, there's actually legislation being proposed for jailing people that misgender. If someone is of a particular, one of these dozens of genders, and you accidentally or purposely misgender them, and they take it the wrong way, they can complain to the police, and you can be actually thrown in jail.
All in the name of
Canada, this is a real thing.
All in the name of freedom of speech.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's my concern, is the unintended consequences, of going down this road.
I'm not so sure that they're unintended, Carl. I don't.
Some of them aren't.
Yeah.
But that is my concern, and I just wanted to express that again. People have a right to live the way they want, but there are consequences for some parts, some choices that are made, and that's my concern when you start treating reality as clay that you can mold and bend to whatever way you want, regardless of the consequences. It's just concerning. That's all.
Well, thanks for calling up and sharing your concern, Carl. I've got Kellis on the line. I'm going to go say goodbye and go to Kellis, but thanks for calling.
Thank you very much for it.
Good afternoon, Kellis.
Good afternoon, Bob. So, just because I'll be fast because I've got to get out. So if I have changed my birth certificate that says that I'm a woman, and I'm involved in some type of a crime and I leave evidence behind, and so the detective sees it and they look at the DNA and they say, we're looking for a man. Well, obviously it's not me. So I am off the hook right there.
And
even if the DNA says it's me, but the DNA is lying because the DNA says I am a male.
Well, in the brave new world that we're moving into, you're correct, and probably the detectives that gathered that evidence are going to be liable for a civil suit for
That's what I'm saying. Because the way I look at it is, unless you can go and change your chromosomes in every single gene in your body, you are what you were born. And so what I see is there is attraction. I may be attracted to a male or I may be attracted to a female. female, or maybe attracted males who think they're female, etc. Whatever all these things are. But no matter what, genetically.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Kellis. I think I lost you. Are you still there? Yeah, you're okay. Yeah, good point, Kellis. Kellis' point. Everybody who is when you are born, you have chromosomes, and if you have two X chromosomes, you are a female. If you have an X and a Y chromosome, you're a male. And you will never be able to change that chromosomal makeup no matter how much you'd like to be something else. So you could change the way you dress. You could change what kind of makeup, if any, you use. There are even surgical treatments where you can alter parts of your body. There are hormonal treatments where you could change some apparent physical characteristics, but you can't change that chromosomal makeup, no matter how hard you try. But as our friend Carlito pointed out, in the era of postmodernism, what we must look for now is how people react to oppression. And the example I used the other day was Mazie Hirono and Brett Kavanaugh. When somebody asked Mazie Hirono, do you believe Brett Kavanaugh? She said, no, I looked at his decisions, and I know how he would treat women's reproductive rights, so how can I believe him? It wasn't the truth or falsity of the statements that Kavanaugh had made. It's where he lined up in this oppressor-oppressor hierarchy. So if he is an oppressor, you don't have to believe him. You don't have to pay any attention to him at all. What you should do is take every effort that you can to end the oppression. And in the case that we're talking about here, to end the oppression is to change the entire rules of society so that if a person thinks that if they think that they should be a female, then we got to go change the birth records. We got to go change the birth certificate, because to do anything else, once again, we'd be just caving into the oppressors. So we're coming up on the home stretch here. I'll come back to incumbents versus Lou and Josh after the as we head down the home stretch on Tall Tales this afternoon.
Be merry, be bright, and make shopping all right with holiday gift cards from King's Restaurants. Give a gift they are sure to love. Delicious food and friendly fun at King's. Get a coupon for a free single crate with every $20 gift card purchase. Extra holiday happiness from King's Restaurants. Be merry, be bright, and make shopping all right with holiday gift cards from Chuck E. Cheese's Guam, Ruby Tuesday, and King's Restaurants. Receive special offers with every purchase for extra holiday happiness. See stores for details and have fun this season from all of us at the GFS Group.
Knowing that we have choices in medical providers locally and outside of Guam is important and reassuring. This is the reason why Calvo Select Care provides quality health care options to its members. From a wide array of local, primary, and specialty doctors and clinics to a comprehensive hospital network on island and outside of Guam, you can trust Calvo Select Care to be there for you. Federal employees and annuitants enroll today. Call 477-9808 for more information.
Jeff's Pirates Cove, open daily at 8 a.m., serving up hot breakfast with endless coffee and a taste of history.
Well, this is the home stretch at Tall Tales. This is the end of my favorite part of the day, when I go from being the host who has the ability to communicate with an international radio listening audience. I go from that to just turning into a pumpkin at 6 o'clock. It's tough, but I'll be back tomorrow at 4. You can bet on that. So I was talking a little bit about classified employees, unclassified employees, the desire of when there's a regime change to move unclassifieds into the classified service. And I've got 2 articles here that I probably won't be able to finish, but one article is from the Post, and it's titled Airport Launches Search for New Police Chief. And the other one is from, guess where? The Post. Post is, ever notice how much the Post is really on top of things? And great editorials in the Post, right, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And the other one is from the Post, and it says, Gita creates $100,000 a year job at last minute. So I'm going to start out with another Joe Cruz. And the key words here are Camacho. This is talking about Robert Camacho's retiring as the chief of police at the airport. And near the end of the article, the transition team already has indicated that all current agency heads are expected to submit courtesy resignations before Governor-elect Leon Guerrero takes office in January, including current GPD Chief Joseph Cruz. And that's the drill. And if they don't, the governor can fire. A governor can fire everybody except the members of the Civil Service Commission, as I recall. He can't fire them, but he could fire everybody else if he so desired. By the way, I've got to mention this to Ray Gibson. He's got his list of things that he wants Lou and Josh to do. One of the things that he wants them to do is do something about that ugly chain link fence that is on the median at JFK High School. Ray doesn't like that at all. He's complained about that since it went up. And he would also like those folks who haul garbage to interdict the flow of Hanum Basula from the rear of those trucks to the highway. And I'm going to ask Ray to add one more thing to the list on my behalf, and that would be to fire the entire Chamorro Land Trust Commission and see if we could find 7 people who would want to come in and run that outfit the way it should be run. And I'll see how it works. Anyhow, going back to the airport, the spokesperson from the airport declined to comment on whether another Joe Cruz has applied for the job at the airport, saying it's a personnel matter. GPD spokesman Paul Tapau also declined comment on Chief Cruz's plans. Camacho said he has no way of knowing who is applying for the airport job, and he is not involved in the selection process. So I learned this morning that there is some speculation that the way the airport has handled this is tailor-made to allow another Joe Cruz to move from the police department to the airport. Pretty nice move, by the way, because the job can pay as much as $100,000. So the mechanics are that an announcement was made, but just barely published. It didn't appear on the airport's website until the Post started asking embarrassing questions. It was one of those that unless you knew somebody, you wouldn't know that that job was opening up. That's the suspicion. And the time frame is very, very short. If you found out about it, I think the deadline for turning in an application is like December 10. You just barely have enough time from the time you find out about the job being open to get your application in. And then according to what I saw on that website, you have to submit college transcripts to the airport in order for your application to be considered. And it can't be your college transcripts that you've carried around in the bottom of your briefcase ever since. They have to be mailed directly from the institution where you went to school. Well, how easy would it be to get the university that you went to in Oklahoma, Panhandle State, say, to send a transcript out here to meet that deadline? Really, really difficult. So unless you went to GCC or the university, you're aced out already. So there are other indicia that made it look like it would be very easy for Joe Cruz to land this job, but it'd be difficult for any competition, first of all, because so few people knew about it until the Post came along and kind of dug this out. So the thinking is that, or the speculation is that this is set up because Joe Cruz, another Joe Cruz, is not going to be chief of police in January. The thinking is to slide him from the police department over the airport authority for another good job, and it is a classified position. And that's what I started this segment off on. So if it's a classified position, the thinking is it's part of the merit system, and it would be difficult for Lou and Josh to dump him just because he'd been chief of police during the Calvo administration. Now, any classified position has a 6 months probationary period, and at least in theory, an employee can be fired during the probationary period for a good reason or for no reason at all. I don't know. I've seen a couple of cases that tested that, and I don't think it's quite that clear-cut. As an example, I don't think you could fire someone during his probationary period because he's black or white or whatever. I don't think you could fire him during his probationary period because he's old, because we do have an age discrimination in employment law, even though Carlito and I are not going to be able to get our birth certificates amended to make us as young as we... I really feel like I'm about 50, so, you know, I'd like to have my my birthday moved forward by about 30 years. It was only fair. But anyhow, that's a suspicion with another Joe Cruz, that he would be one of the incumbents that is part of the card here, incumbents versus Lou and Josh. I've got about 3 more minutes. I could perhaps start on Mana Silva. First thing I want you to know is that Mana is Ray's sister. And so this morning, Ray did an in-depth investigation. Well, I wouldn't say investigation. I would say at least an inquiry into Mana's situation. He went so far as to contact Jay Rojas, the administrator of GITA. And I'll start out reading this article with the caveat that much of what I learned this morning casts a different light on this situation. It says the Guam Economic Authority recently created a new management director position that pays about $100,000 a year, including benefits. And the job may have provided a parachute landing for former Deputy Administrator Mana Silva Tyron, who has been tapped for the job. Various sources familiar with the development state. The job title was created in October following a GITA board meeting. Well, that's the first problem. Not following a GITA board meeting, at a GITA board meeting. And you saw me pounding the table so much about the CCU. This is an extremely important distinction, that the job was created during a board meeting, not following a board meeting. That's as far as I'm going to be able to go with this tomorrow. I mean, today. I will pick this up tomorrow and give you the straight skinny on this particular story. So I know I'm asking a lot, But please be patient. 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon is going to get here sooner than what you think. I'll see you then.
The Point is KUS.